So, you're thinking about using a VA loan to buy a home in Anacortes, Washington? That's awesome. But one of the first questions that probably pops into your head is, what about the appraisal cost? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the exact numbers you need to know for your 2025 and 2026 budget, all based on the official VA guidelines. Let's just dive right in.
You're getting ready to make an offer, you're excited, and then that big question hits you. How much is this VA appraisal actually going to set me back? You know, it's a super important piece of your budget, so let's get you a clear answer. And here it is, the number you've been waiting for. For any planning you're doing for 2025 or 2026 in Anacortes, you should be budgeting somewhere between the mid-800s and about $1,100 for your VA appraisal. Now, there's a reason for that range, of course. It all depends on the type of property. You know, from a simple single-family home all the way up to a more complex multi-unit place. Okay, but here's a really key piece of info. This cost isn't some special Anacortes price. It's actually a VA-regulated statewide fee for all of Washington. So whether you're buying a house in Seattle, Spokane, or right there in Anacortes, the cost is going to be in the same ballpark. It's one of the great things about the VA loan program, honestly. It creates that predictability for veterans no matter where they're looking in the state. So if it's a statewide number, where does it actually come from? I mean, who decides this stuff? To really get it, we've got to look at the official document that lays out these fees for every single lender and appraiser. It all comes from this thing called the VA fee schedule. And yeah, you're reading that date right. It's from back in 2021. But believe it or not, this is still the official baseline that everybody has to follow until a new one comes out. It's literally the rulebook for these costs. This table really helps break down that price range. You can see how the fee scales up with how complex the property is. For your standard single-family home or a condo, you're looking at the low end, somewhere in the mid-800s. A manufactured home, that'll be somewhere in the middle. And if you're aiming for a 2 to 4 unit property, that extra work pushes the fee up toward that $1,100 ceiling. Okay, so we've covered the how much. But the next just as critical question for any homebuyer is, how long does this take? So let's look at the timeline for this really important step in your loan process. The VA is super clear on this. The magic number is 14. 14 business days. That's the standard turnaround time they require for an appraisal in Washington. So think about 2 full work weeks. This is a huge timeline to factor into your closing schedule because that's the window the appraiser has to get their work done and send that final report back to your lender. And here's how that 14-day window actually plays out. It all kicks off right after you go under contract and your lender officially orders the appraisal. The clock really starts ticking once the appraiser gets that request and can actually get into the property. From that moment, they've got to do the valuation, write up the report, and get it back to your lender, all within that 2-week time frame. Now, it's really important to know that the base fee we've been talking about isn't always the final exact number you'll see on your closing paperwork. There are a few other variables that can nudge that total cost up a bit. You have to get this distinction. It's super important. The base fee, that's the regulated amount that goes right to the appraiser for their work. But the total cost on your closing disclosure might be higher because it could include that base fee plus some extra charges from your lender. Just know they aren't always the exact same number. So what kind of things could make the price go up? Well, if you need a rush job, that can definitely cost more. A really unique property, say a rural home way out there or a waterfront place near Anacortes, might take more time and, you guessed it, cost more. And like we just mentioned, some lenders tack on their own little admin or review fees right on top of the base appraisal cost. All right, we have covered the official schedule, the timeline, all those little things that can change the price. So how do you actually take all this and build a solid, reliable budget for your home purchase? This quote from the source material is honestly the best advice anyone can give you. To play it safe, don't just budget for that lowest possible number. It is always smarter to plan for a cost that's closer to the upper end of that $800 to $1,100 range. That way, you're ready for anything and you won't get caught off guard. And this right here is your most important takeaway, your number 1 action item. While this guide gives you a fantastic range to plan with, fee schedules can change, and every lender is a little different. So the only way to know the exact number for sure is to just ask your lender for the precise dollar figure when you're applying for your loan. So there you have it. You now have a really clear idea of your VA appraisal cost and the timeline in Anacortes. We've turned a big unknown into a number you can actually budget for. As you keep moving forward on this exciting journey, the real question is, what's the next piece of the home buying puzzle you're going to solve? Good luck out there.